Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison from Think Be Do Leadership, and here growing you to grow your teams, to grow your business. Today we are talking about listening and how actually we need to stop talking and start listening, because God, so often I hear people say to me, "Oh, I don't feel like a leader. Oh, I'm not like a leader," I don't think that's me. And I query that really, because I said, well, what's a leader then? What does that mean? And so often people, when they describe a leader, are describing somebody who has probably a bigger ego than they actually care about the people, and that they talk a lot and they're out there and they're spouting their views and they've really got charisma and all those things. And that's not to say that you wouldn't have that stuff, and everybody has an ego. But the point is what I find really interesting is how much, the normal person, let's say in inverted commas, who is that? But generally, people seem to think that, I couldn't do that. And I would challenge as to whether that is actually what a leader is, because, what are we here for as a leader? Well, let's see. First of all, we're here to grow people and create performance. So there's us, that's one person. There's only 24 hours in a day. So the idea of leading a team of people is to get those people to all work together in the best possible way towards a common goal. Would you agree with that? Yeah. If you do, if you're listening live, and if you agree with that, then give me a shout, or if you don't, give me a shout too. Just pop on there and say hello. And if you're listening on the replay, please feel free to comment, because I do check my comments afterwards. So where were we? Yeah. So the purpose of a team and the purpose of a leader in that team is to encourage everybody to work towards the same thing and get the thing done in the best possible way, in probably the shortest time, but with the best quality and all those things. And where in there does it say that the more that you speak and the more that you are shouting about and talking the most and knowing everything, that you're going to help that to happen? Because that's the other thing there, and I didn't mention it before, which is that I often hear that people say, well, I'm not the expert, I don't know the things, I don't know enough. And the thing about being a leader is you need to have a working knowledge, don't get me wrong, but you don't always need to have to know the answers. So if you don't know the answer, well, that's a good thing sometimes, and we're going to talk about this in 3 ways shortly. But generally, if you think you need to know the answer, then what room does that leave other people? So if our job as the leader is to grow other people so that they can perform, it isn't about us. It's about what we can encourage and grow other people, how we can enable other people. And so this thing about, I need to be able to be able to speak up and all those things, yes, you do need to be able to speak and you need to be able to enthuse, but it depends what the purpose of what you're doing and saying is. If you're there because you want to listen to yourself and you think, I'm so cool, then maybe that's not quite the idea. And so those people who are not necessarily big driven by their own ego, they're more driven by that purpose, often say to me, I don't know. And it's like, no, you are the one. You're the one we want to be the leader. And we need you to be the leader. So stop talking, start listening is my theme. And it's because you don't always need to talk. There is an element of that, yes, and we cover that in other areas. But today I want to talk about how much of a difference it can make if you are a good listener, what that actually means. So let's look at it in 3 ways. Truly listening to people. When was the last time somebody actually listened to you? Just let's have a think about that for a second. Just ask yourself this question. When was the last time somebody listened to you? And if you remember that time when somebody actually took the time to really hear what you said, how did you feel? You were probably surprised, because normally what happens is that we're waiting for the other person to finish what they're saying so that we can just jump in and we can say our thing. So we don't often listen properly to what that person's saying, because in our mind we're going on about, I'm going to say this in a minute, and when they finish speaking I'm going to get my point across. But that isn't listening, that's just taking it in turns to speak. So when you are actually listened to, when somebody stops talking and really looks at you and pays attention, then suddenly it makes you feel incredibly heard. It makes you feel respected, cared for, wanted. engage with, and all of those things. So if somebody feels like you actually care about what they've got as an opinion, they are going to be more engaged with you as a person. And we get this wrong so often because we're always like, oh yeah, me, get in there, and fighting to say, and you see it in meetings all the time, fighting to get in the next word, when actually a true appreciation of what somebody says through hearing them, listening to them, is going to make a massive difference to that person that said it. And also, instead of us thinking, oh, well, if I don't, if I'm not speaking, I'm not going to look good to my bosses or to the people, whatever, it actually makes you look better if you appreciate other people's comments, other people's genius, other people's information, because you can then say, well, I appreciate that. Let's utilize that. And it makes people realize that you're not out for yourself, that you do want to include them, and that you are able to work with people and utilize that genius. So it's amazing what you do when you stop talking and start listening. Okay. The next point is one that I think is interlinked with this listening. And that is and interlinked with this fact that you don't need to know everything. And that is your ability to take feedback, the ability to own your mistakes, know when you've been wrong, or being open to even being wrong. I don't know if you've ever been in a meeting or in an organization where somebody's never wrong. Those ones who are never wrong, and they talk a good job and they make you feel like you've done it wrong yourself after a while. But actually being open to being wrong or being vulnerable and not knowing is truly engaging, because people are, yes, they want you to know a certain amount, but when you say, look, I don't know this, what do you think? It gives them the courage and the respect that you want to give them to come up with their ideas and to put forward these things. And if you're open to that, then the good old saying of two heads is better than one, or should we say better than one, it's absolutely true, because then you've got somebody who's confident to say, oh, by the way, I think this. And you don't have that whole emperor's new clothes thing where nobody wants to say that doesn't look right. Yeah. And that's a massive problem. If people are not able to give you feedback, if they're not able to say, hey, Julia, I think you might have got that wrong, or I think we could have done it a better way, then you're relying on you having to know everything, and go back to that thing of, well, leaders need to know everything. Well, no. But if you don't enable people to speak to you and encourage that, and you're not open to that, then you are going to have to know everything. And unfortunately, your brain is only a certain size, and therefore you're never going to get the best of everything, because you are not, it might be the font of all knowledge in here, but it's not everything. There's more out there, and other people have got a different perspective. And so having this ability to open your mind to feedback and being wrong or being vulnerable and saying, I haven't got a clue, what do you think, is huge. And then obviously go ahead and listen, like I said before, and really hearing what they've got to say. But it's this mindset of like, I'm interested in what you've got, and I'm okay with telling you that I don't know what the answer is. The minute you do that, the pressure comes off as well. And that's the lovely thing, is that if you think about the pressure you put yourself under when you try and think like you know it all, you're like a swan, you're like, I'm floating along and I'm like, oh, I'm paddling underneath. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to tell anyone. Well, my God, the pressure to get it right is huge. But the minute you say, hey guys, you know what, I'm not sure about this, what do you think? Then they're going to come in and help you. Yeah. Asking for help or asking or telling people you don't know the answer means that people are more likely to want to come in and help you. But nobody likes helping a smarty pants, do they? So it's super important that you actually are open to taking the feedback, being wrong, finding out that somebody's got a better idea than you. That's okay. And appreciate them for that, and use the listening skills that we've just talked about to really hear what they've got to say. They might actually do it for you as well. And you can delegate the whole thing out, but that's a whole nother video. Okay, and then the third part I think is super important and goes along with those things, which is appreciating the genius of other people. Okay, so I do a lot of behavioral profiling when we're working with the Leaders Launchpad, and I work with teams. Everybody in my world gets either DISC profile or talent dynamics or some kind of behavioral profile. Harrison is another one that I'm looking at now. Everybody gets profiled. And not because I'm trying to put everybody in a box, but what I'm doing is trying to understand and helping other people to understand that there are different ways of different perspectives, the different communication styles, and there's different behavioral styles, different ways of doing stuff. And if you think that your way is the best way, and you may say, oh, that's not me, but there are so many out there that's not true, and it is them. And they do think that their way, it's my way or the highway, so to speak. If you think that, then the only thing you're going to get is more of the same of you. So if you employ somebody who's the same as you only want people in your office that are the same as you. I don't know, let's say white males, you want all white males who come from, what's that school? I can't remember the school now. Same school or whatever, they say, anyone from Oxford University or something like that. Then you're just going to get one viewpoint. And what's the good of that? Because, that's where we get bias. That's where we get small-mindedness. Oh, my camera's gone out of focus. Hang on. Come back to me. There you go. You get small-mindedness and you run out of ideas as well because you've only pooling a certain, opinion. And so here what I'm talking about is saying, hold on. Behavioral profiling, different communication styles, different perspectives, different ways of life, coming from different backgrounds, coming from different countries or wherever it might be, and really understanding as a leader that actually the most amazing thing is to have the diversity of different people and different experiences and different styles. And when you do that, you are going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. We know this, like, if you bring somebody in from somewhere different and you're like, oh, I don't really quite understand this person, or they kind of talk differently to me, or they look different to me, or they're coming up with different language patterns or ideas, and it can feel uncomfortable because we're used to stuff, we're in our comfort zone. It's people, your mates might all be people like you, but if you want to grow, you need people that are not like you. Okay, so appreciating what I call the genius of others, the way in which they do something that is highly likely to be different from yours, is a huge thing as a leader, because you do not want clones of you doing just what you do, because you'll be fighting over it for a start, and it will not bring diversity or diversity of ideas. So if you are a really great listener, you have the ability to take feedback and own your mistakes and own when you don't know something, own when you do too, and you appreciate the differences and the genius that other people bring, and you can utilize that, and you're happy to utilize that and respect that, then you are an amazing resource for your business, whether that's your own business or somebody else's business. You are an amazing leader, and you do not need to feel the pressure to be the one who has to speak, who has to know everything, who has to, really come up with the goods, because you're working as a team and you are the facilitator of that team of amazingness. Does that make sense? If it does, then leave me a little message there and let me know whether or not you feel the same, whether or not you've experienced that in your business, or whether you are like that, or do you need to do some work on that? Do you need to be better at listening? Do you need to be able to be better at taking feedback, opening up a little bit? And do you need to be better at expanding the way in which you bring genius into your business? And think about it. If you want to be a better listener, well, then just by shutting your mouth a little bit and waiting, and really hearing and paying attention and looking at that person, is going to make you a better listener straight away. If you check your understanding at the end, did I get right what I thought you said? Rather than jumping in and just making an assumption, checking in like that is going to, again, make you a better listener and get that much better communication. And if you use things like summarizing, what I think you said is X, Y, and Z, and summarizing, did you mean this? Then that will help you to make sure that you have listened better and you've listened properly. And that person then also knows that you bothered to ask the question. You checked in what it meant, you checked in, you summarized it, and you then have made sure that you've listened properly, and they feel heard. You feel better because you have listened. Okay. If you want to take feedback, owning those things and practicing vulnerability, that will help you to see that actually it's okay to let yourself go a little bit. And lastly, looking at the genius of people, just go and have a look at who you have brought into your business or who's around you in your business. Okay. And there was there was a case recently, a court case, where an organisation, didn't want different people, and there was a guy. I'm not sure where he was from, but he was different religion, different ethnicity. I'm not even sure if he was different sexuality than them. All the things that really you shouldn't even really be bothered about, worrying about whether there's anybody different, because it doesn't really matter. But it did to them, because all they wanted was white male, British, standard stereotype, and it was a disaster because it had bullying. They singled him out, poor bloke, and he had a terrible time, and he couldn't do his best job. He couldn't work, could he? And then they went, "Oh, you're not very good at your job." And you think, surprise, he's not going to be good at his job because you've just singled him out for being different. But how about you look at how can you encourage people to be different? How can you look for different people in the business? Yeah. Okay, so if you do those 3 things, listening better, take feedback, open up and be able to be not fun of all knowledge, and you appreciate other people's genius, you will be one amazing person to work with and for. Okay, if you would like some help in spreading this throughout your team, throughout your business, or growing as a leader, or both, parts of the same thing, I suppose, then give me a shout and I will show you what we've got, because we are opening up the doors to our Leaders Launchpad program, which includes all of this kind of thing. That's an online mastermind program for you or people who are growing as leaders in your business. That's an open program. And we do private coaching. We do coaching within your organization. And of course, as I said to you before, DISC profiling, behavioral profiling for your team for collaboration and communication. And if that's something that you want to improve in your business, my God, does this work? I love it. And it's fun. So back to the topic of being a good listener. So speak less, listen more, do those 3 things. Hear, take feedback, appreciate different people, and you will be far more happy. You will probably have less to do because you'll have brought more people in to help you, and they will be more happy to help you. So spread the love. Happy, what day are we on? Wednesday. And it's Julie from Think, Be, Do Leadership. Take care. Bye-bye.